Potter.
Scotty B going to work in the paint.
Eastern Conference Final. New NBA champion. And it's a team from Toronto, Canada. We, the North, are now we, the champions.
What is going on, Raptors Nation? It is Luca here, back with the Raptors Nation podcast. Hope you're all doing well on this Thursday, February 1st. At the time of this recording, the All-Star reserves have not been selected yet. Obviously, all eyes are going to be on if Scotty Barnes makes it or not. But in this show, I wanted to talk about the latest out of Raptors land. I'm going to be talking about Jordan Nwora, who has been shining and impressing me lately. I'm going to be taking a look at the latest Bruce Brown trade update that has been given to us by Woj. And then finally, we are going to take a look back at Marc Gasol's Raptors tenure as the legend himself officially retired from professional basketball. Before we dive into it, do me a solid, everybody. Hit a like on the video and please subscribe to the channel. We are almost at 1,000 subs over here at the Raptors Nation YouTube channel, where I bring you guys day-to-day content from game recaps to reactions to videos to this podcast every single Thursday. You definitely want to keep it locked and loaded here. And also, you can get this podcast wherever you get your podcasts, on Apple, iTunes, or Spotify. Be sure to leave us a 5-star review. All right, let's get into it. And we are first going to start with Jordan Nwora. I mean, people thought this guy was just a throw-in in the Pascal Siakam trade. And as I said on X, he's not just a throw-in. This guy can hoop. And I know it's a very, very small sample size. But what do you know? Nwora finally given some minutes, finally given some opportunities here, and he's been making the most out of them. I think it's safe to say Nwora is not going to be getting DNPs the rest of this season. I mean, how about Nwora? He has just been such a great positive during the last stretch here when it comes to the Raptors. And he actually has a pretty unique backstory. So Nwora grew up in Buffalo, New York, and he went to the 2016 All-Star Weekend, which was in Toronto. And that was actually his first in-person NBA action. So full circle moment for Nwora. In Toronto for All-Star Weekend in 2016. Now he's playing for the team in 2024. And I tell you guys, he has impressed me a lot so far. I mean, try not to get too ahead of myself here and trying to temper the expectations because, again, it's been 2 outings and it's a very, very small sample size. But he's been looking good. And to me, I mean, he could potentially be a key bench piece when you look at the Raptors' long-term plans. As you look at Nwora with 3 starters missing, he burst onto the scene. He made his biggest impact and contribution on Sunday in Atlanta when the Raptors almost won that wild outing, as he co-led the team with 24 points, had 9 rebounds, 6 assists, hitting shots, getting busy on the glass, making plays, getting his teammates involved. He's got great size for a wing player. And then Nwora was back at it again in Chicago, a game in which the Raptors did win, down starters again in Pirtle, Quickly, and Barrett. In 19 minutes of action from off the bench, Nwora, 17 points on 5 of 7 shooting from the field, 4 of 5 from 3, and one of his 3-pointers made came in a 4-point play, which I thought really changed the dynamic of the game from that point on, as the Raptors then went on to get the lead, and they didn't look back, going on to beat the Bulls. And Nwora almost had a poster dunk too. I mean, it was great to see the Raptors so many games under 500, and the whole bench got up to its feet in excitement because Nwora almost had a poster dunk. And that's just the type of athleticism and, you know, his ability to get to the rim that has really stood out to me. But you look at Nwora on an undermanned Raptors team, he really was the guy who ignited the Raptors second unit and that bench, showing off his length, his shooting ability, his ability to create. And like I said, I really like his size on the wing for the Raptors. So this is the type of player the Raptors need, right? With the second unit, a guy with his length, his size, who's able to shoot. And Nwora, we see it. When he's in the zone, he can be an instant bucket. I love his shot. I love how he's able to just, get it off, and he's smooth with it. So again, it's very, very early, and trying my best to temper expectations here, but just looking at it, seeing what he's done, the eye test, I mean, he has a chance to be a productive part of this Raptors rotation. Like I said, potentially long term. Now, it is interesting to note that Nwora is an unrestricted free agent this summer. But if he continues to play as he's been playing and he impresses the Raptors, it's going to be hard for them not to keep him. I mean, he's 25 years old, and, he can be a potential hidden gem. Let's call it for what it is. Everybody was quick to criticize the trade for Pascal Siakam. Meanwhile, you looked at it and you got 3 first-round picks off the bat. But then, the players coming back in, Bruce Brown, even if he doesn't stay, you're going to cash in on more assets for him, whether it be a future pick. Reportedly, the Raptors want a future first and a quality player. And then Kira Lewis hasn't really been given an opportunity yet. But then Nwora, could he end up being the hidden gem of that deal when it's all said and done? So I've really liked what I've seen from this guy, and he's going to continue to get opportunities here. The Raptors, obviously not prioritizing wins and losses the rest of the way. Darko made that clear, which is the right call in my opinion. It's not about trying to win. It's not about trying to go after the play-in tournament. It's all about letting these young guys shine and really seeing what you have here as you assemble this youth movement in Toronto. And if Nwora continues to play like this, it's hard not to see him a part of that equation. So we will see how Nwora follows up his last 2 impressive performances with the Toronto Raptors. All right, speaking of Bruce Brown, and maybe the Raptors are able to get even more assets for him, which would be the cobweb of the Pascal Siakam trade. Bruce Brown, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with him. So we are officially a week away from the NBA trade deadline, guys. 1 week from today. And there's been a lot of speculation about maybe the Raptors head towards a fire sale. It was reported by Josh Lewenberg. He speculated that the Raptors could in fact be open for business. We know the only untouchables on this team right now for the foreseeable future, Barnes, Barrett, Quickly. Everybody else could come into play in a potential trade. So with 1 week before the deadline, could the Raptors get busy and make some more moves? Remember, Masai Ujiri hinted at more moves potentially coming when he addressed the Pascal Siakam trade. And one of the biggest names that have come up in the rumor mill, Bruce Brown Jr., and rightfully so. I mean, Bruce Brown right now could help every single contending team. He's like that. He's a plug-and-play player. We saw with the Raptors, his first game in, didn't even practice, made an impact, did a lot of the good things. So teams will really benefit from Bruce Brown Jr., teams that are looking to make a run when it comes to the playoffs. So the latest update via Woj, which was on his Threads piece on Instagram, he said that Toronto is fielding offers for Bruce Brown Jr., lots of interest, no rush. This is per Woj. So we know what the Raptors, you better know by this point, they don't rush for anything. I mean, look how long it took them to finally pull the trigger on this entire youth movement and trading guys like Anunoby and Siakam. So I wouldn't say it's a foregone conclusion just knowing the Raptors' track record that Brown is gone by next Thursday, or other players on this roster like a Schroeder, a Boucher, even a Gary Trent Jr. He too is an unrestricted free agent. But if I had to say which player currently on the Raptors roster would be the most likely to be moved ahead of next Thursday's trade deadline, I would say Bruce Brown would be at the top of that list, just because, teams have been inquiring, teams have been contacting the Raptors. And like I said, teams that are looking to make a push could use Bruce Brown for as soon as this season, for the second part of the season. So Brown, we know he's highly coveted, and we knew when he was acquired in that trade for Siakam that this could have ended up being a cup of coffee tenure, because for as good as a player Brown is, he doesn't necessarily fit the Raptors' rebuilding timeline as a key piece. And then you look at Brown, guys, he has said to have significant interest from around the league, and teams like the Knicks, Lakers, Bucks, Mavericks, and even his former team, the Nuggets, have all been teams connected to Brown ahead of next Thursday's trade deadline. And the Knicks and the Lakers in particular have come up a ton because, the Lakers are going to make moves with LeBron being all cryptic on X with the time glass, and the Lakers are making moves. Put it at that. They always make moves when LeBron James is on the roster, especially since they're struggling. So Bruce Brown, they were interested in him before he signed with Indiana last summer. That could be a team. And obviously with the Lakers, they have that 2029 first round pick at their disposal. The player part of it will be tricky, though, who they send back. And then the New York Knicks. And remember, Brown was basically pitching himself to the Knicks before the Raptors game against the Knicks in New York, saying that he's a fan of Thibodeau and that he's a dog. And Brown knows deep down that his Raptors tenure is probably not going to be a long one. So those are teams that I mentioned that could look to push to trade for Brown. And if the Raptors do trade Brown, it is important to note that they can't trade him alongside any other Raptors player due to the NBA's recent traded player restrictions. So it would just have to be Brown going to the team for obviously what the Raptors would want, a first-round pick and a player back. And in return, the Raptors are looking for a first-round pick and a quality player. This was per Mark Stein's Substack. So, again, it's not a foregone conclusion just because of how methodical, slow, and patient the Raptors are, given their track record. But I would be surprised if Bruce Brown doesn't get traded before next Thursday, especially since there's been a lot of suitors that have come up to the forefront. His name continues to come up in the rumor mill. It wouldn't make a lot of sense for the Raptors to cash in on more value for Brown because, again, Brown doesn't fit the timeline. And for the Raptors, it's not about now. It's all about trying to set themselves up for their future. And what's of big interest for the Raptors right now? Future assets and draft picks. And right now, the Raptors projected to have 4 first-round picks in the 2024 NBA draft. And maybe it's more if they do end up trading Brown for another 2024 first-round pick. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. The Raptors got some names that would make sense to be dealt. And I am all for a fire sale if the Raptors do, in fact, go that route in this final week before the deadline. They got names that would make sense on a lot of other teams. Veteran guys who aren't a part of the long-term plans here. Even a guy like Gary Trent Jr., I already said it. I'm open to trading him. If they can get good value for him, he's an unrestricted free agent. To me, Gary Trent Jr. has just been way too inconsistent. I think if the Raptors can get value for him, that's another guy that I wouldn't mind the Raptors trading. Obviously Boucher, Schroeder, 2 veteran guys make sense. And then Pirtle, he's injured right now, but, that's another guy. Maybe OKC gives the Raptors a call because they could use a veteran center for a playoff run. And they give the Raptors future assets. And obviously with OKC, they got a lot to work with their future first-round picks and how many picks they have at their disposal. And it's funny, ESPN actually put out a mock trade the other day, which I put on X. You could go check it out. And it was pretty enticing to me. A couple of picks, some young players for Schroeder and Pirtle. Again, the Raptors, they're not trying to win for this season. They're not even trying to win for the next season, arguably. This is going to be a slow-moving process. So it's not about getting guys who are going to help you win now. It's about getting as many assets as you can and really hoping the young core develops with your 3 guys that aren't going anywhere, and Barnes, Quickly, and Barrett, and just getting a bunch of future assets that can be, around those guys. And hopefully this thing comes together all at the same time, as we've seen in the past in other rebuilding situations like Orlando, like OKC. So it'll be very interesting to see what the Raptors ultimately do. The trade deadline, like I said, a week from today. Can't believe it. It's already here. And it's funny. It feels like we've already had the trade deadline because of how many trades we've gotten, and they all were around the Raptors, believe it or not. The Raptors got the party started early this trade season. So there's a week left to see if anything else happens. All right, guys. I wanted to conclude today's show by reflecting and talking about a Raptors legend, one of my personal favorites to ever rock a Raptors jersey. I know it wasn't a long tenure. It was a short stint. But Marc Gasol, unbelievable career. Officially, calling it a career, officially retiring from professional basketball. And it's going to be 5 years ago next week, guys, that the Raptors put that bow on their team that would end up winning the championship when they acquired Marc Gasol from the Memphis Grizzlies. And, when we look back at that very, very special 2019 Raptors team that went on to win the championship, obviously the guy who made it happen was Kawhi Leonard. But I always said it, and I still believe it to this day, that if the Raptors don't trade for Marc Gasol, I don't think they win that championship. He was very, very vital and important to that team, especially in the playoffs when the Raptors had to combat some of the bigs that they played against. And Jonas Valanciunas, I remember the reaction like it was yesterday at that time, giving up the young big, again, making a win now move. A lot of fans didn't like it, but it made perfect sense for the Raptors. They were all in that year, and they knew this was our time to win with Kawhi's future uncertain. And obviously he left. So they had to make the moves that they did. And this was such an amazing move because Gasol ended up being the missing piece to the puzzle. And he was unbelievable in that playoff run. How he was able to combat Nikola Vucevic in that first round against Orlando, the job he did against Joel Embiid in the second round. And then, in that Eastern Conference Finals when the Raptors were down 2-0, Gasol did a masterful job in helping contain Giannis in games 3 and 4 as the Raptors were able to turn that series around, win 4 straight, and obviously the rest is history of winning the championship. So Gasol, you looked at what he did for the Raptors, great defensively, combat a lot of the bigs they played against. He became a stretch 5, a guy who was able to hit the 3-point shot towards the end of his tenure, and we saw a lot of that with the Raptors. And Gasol, he was one of those pieces that did return in the Raptors following season, which obviously got cut short because of COVID. But it was great to see Gasol contribute and win a title. That was one of the guys who definitely deserved the title before his career was wrapped up with. And then, of course, Gasol spent one final season with the Lakers. Then he went to Spain, and now he's officially retired. So, man, what stands out to me the most of Gasol is just him partying. Like, he was so enthusiastic, excited, and rightfully so at that parade. I remember I was there amongst the millions of people that were there trying to get a good look at it when Gasol was just partying on that bus. He definitely had a lot of drinks that day. And I mean, I don't blame him, but Gasol he loved it, man. And then the other thing that stands out to me is just, him hugging Serge Ibaka, another veteran that finally, got to the promised land, able to win a title. And Ibaka, I believe he hasn't officially retired yet, but that's obviously going to be coming soon. So, yeah, Gasol, man, again, he wasn't here for a whole long time, but very, very key piece of that Raptors championship run. And I think, he could get overlooked on that team because obviously all eyes were on Kawhi Leonard, obviously some other contributions they got with Fred, Pascal Siakam making the big shot in the series clincher. But Marc Gasol, from a totality standpoint in that playoff run, he was a very, very key piece. So Marc Gasol officially retires, and boy, oh boy, time flies, guys. It's like all we have left from that team, literally, are memories. And Chris Boucher, of course, but he could find himself dealt in the next week. And as soon as Boucher is traded, moved, that's officially going to signal the end of that Raptors stellar team, man. Just makes me smile thinking back. Literally, I can't stop getting all goosebumps and being happy just thinking back to that team because it really, really was a special squad. And I'm not just saying that as a Raptors fan. It really was just looking back at the pieces on that team that got it done together. So that is going to conclude today's show, guys. Going to keep this one relatively short. Just wanted to bring you the latest from Raptors land. Let me know your thoughts to some of the things I talked about today. What have your impressions been on Nwora? Do you think the Raptors are going to get a Bruce Brown trade done? Who else do you see the Raptors trading if they make any moves between now and next Thursday's deadline? And what is your favorite Marc Gasol memory? Let me know down below, guys. Hit a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Leave us a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. That is it for me. It's Lucas signing off. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, stay safe.